This one resonated with me, even though it wasn't the first time we'd allowed someone into our marriage and most likely won't be the last. The way she lay there, engrossed in the moment, breathless and with blurry eyes. My husband took over without skipping a beat as I fell back, my heart still pounding. We didn't need to speak. She was aware already. She was a part of us right now. Before we start, please hit like and subscribe if you have been enjoying these stories. You have no idea how much it helps. And I'm so happy you found this if this is your first visit. I hope you find it entertaining and return for more. Let's get started. When I opened my eyes, he was already moving with me. His body moved steadily and confidently in time with mine as the morning sun peeked through the curtains, filling the room with a gentle glow. With each shift and press, I was grounded by one hand, gripping my waist and the other tracing up my spine. It was pleasant. His warmth, his cadence, and the way we naturally mesh without exchanging words. With every press of his body against mine, my breath caught, and I released the sounds, soft and raw. He let out a breath behind me, his movements becoming more methodical as he adjusted with the precise focus of practice that always made me melt a little more. We were fully aware of what to do. However, something was lacking. I sensed it even as I stiffened beneath him, even as he drew me in with a gasping sound, and even as we both experienced that last rush. It wasn't where we were meeting. We were trying to get back to how things had been. He fell next to me, respiration irregular, skin wet. I was still warm and tingly when I moved onto my back, but the sensation had already subsided. "You felt that too, didn't you?" I inquired. He grinned crookedly as he looked over. "It was good," I said with a single nod. "Exactly." He brushed a lock of hair off my forehead as he laughed. "We've been spoiled." I didn't respond. Without thinking, I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and opened the booking calendar, habit of simply scanning. Then I caught sight of her. Guess who checked in late last night? I turned the screen to face him as I spoke. He narrowed his eyes. Third room. Last minute traveling alone. Married. Verify the emergency contact information. Claims to be in her late 30s. He sat up a little. Married and alone. "That's intriguing," I said, locking the screen and putting the phone down, that she didn't say anything when she got there. However, the way she surveyed her surroundings suggested that she wished to temporarily vanish. Now he was grinning. "Do you believe she is open?" I rolled toward him with a smirk. We might be what she's searching for, in my opinion. Firmer than before, his hand returned to my hip. "What are you contemplating?" I gave him a slow, deliberate shoulder kiss. "To find out how far she'll go, we knock and bring a bottle." He smiled, seeing it already. "You pose a threat." I arched my brow. "You're really welcome." By nightfall, we had a bottle of wine and were standing in her doorway. Surprised yet courteous, she opened the door barefoot in loose tee and silky slacks. I could tell she had been waiting for anything to happen, but she only applied enough makeup to make it seem like she hadn't. "Hi," I grinned. "We thought we'd welcome you properly." She first glanced at the bottle, then at us both. "You didn't have to, I see." "We wanted to," I said, taking the initiative. After a brief moment of hesitation, she widened the door and let us inside. The lights were warm and dim. She had prepared a modest snack tray with crackers, cheese, and some fruit. How long had she been preparing it in case someone stopped by, I wondered. After pouring glasses and asking the customary questions, we sat around the little table. What brought her here, where she came from, and how long she was staying? She responded with ease, a composed voice, and a courteous smile, but there was a deeper meaning to her tone that was just waiting to be revealed. "Traveling alone?" As I refilled her drink, I asked nonchalantly. She nodded, her gaze darting from me to my spouse and back again. "Just needed a change of scenery." "Your husband didn't mind?" She shook her head after a quiet giggle. "He was not particularly aware of it. I learned everything from that." "Well," I lifted my glass and said, "his loss." My spouse watched her intently and grinned. "Have you done this before?" She blinked. "What? Are you traveling alone?" He simply stared at her and took a lengthy sip without responding. We continued our conversation. The wine was beneficial. She relaxed her stance. It was easy for her to grin. She began to ask us questions in return as she leaned slightly further on the table. I sensed it gradually, like heat rising through glass rather than all at once. She was staring at my lips as I was speaking at one point. It was there, but it was only a glimmer. She grabbed for her glass at the same moment as me a little while later. We touched each other. She didn't retreat. I continued, becoming gentler. "You don't seem like someone who stays quiet for long." I could see that her breath was hardly hitching. "I don't," she muttered. "Usually not." We exchanged glances for an excessive amount of time. Nobody made a move. Nobody said anything. I leaned in to give her a kiss. She was kind, slow, methodical, and she didn't draw away. We kissed for longer than I had anticipated, slowly at first, then more firmly and deeply. Before she sank into me, her lips opened, and I could feel the start in her breath. As if she was still debating whether to stop, her palm sought my arm and her fingers curled gently. She didn't. We stood gently, still sharing a kiss, and I led her to the couch without saying anything. I gave her another, slower kiss to show her how much I desired her. Her body was gentle and careful as it leaned against mine, but it was getting bolder by the moment. I gently lifted her blouse by slipping my hands underneath it till she lifted her arms and allowed me to remove it. I let it drop aside with mine, and the others slipped off equally effortlessly. I gave her another kiss on the skin before gently guiding her back onto the couch. I moved my mouth slowly in slow circles across her chest, pressing my lips to her collarbone first, then lowering myself and lingered with open kisses till she arched into me. As I shifted from side to side, enjoying every inch, her breath faltered and her hands became entangled in my hair. Her eyes were sluggish and unfocused when I withdrew. I stood long enough to take off the remaining garments, and I assisted her in getting out of hers when I got back to her. Pants first, followed by the last item separating us. I was allowed to take my time. I kissed the crease where her thigh started, her hips, and her stomach. As I sank lower, she was already moving beneath me, her thighs opening and relaxing to invite me closer. I began by giving her gentle, warm, open-mouthed and patient kisses, allowing her to feel each one. As I drew nearer, never hurrying, my hands brushed lightly along the inside of her legs. Then, with each gentle touch, my hands descended lower, exploring in a deliberate cadence, bringing her body into mine. I then followed the rhythm her body suggested by tracing downward with my lips. Every change in breath she provided me was followed by a coordinated effort from my mouth and hands. She first grasped the couch with her hands, then my shoulders, and finally her own thighs. She didn't need to talk, so she didn't. That was how we remained for some time, her body moving under mine. Every sound is a reward, and every movement is a signal. I remained by her side, reacting to every indication as though I already knew what she needed and being there for her. I finally slowed down, gave her thighs another kiss, and sat up. She appeared breathless, gorgeous, and disoriented. I looked across at my spouse. He remained motionless, watching with his elbows resting on his knees. I simply nodded and addressed his gaze without saying anything. With his eyes fixed on me, he stood slowly and started undressing silently. As he undressed and approached us, the tension in the room changed, becoming more intense and electrifying. I was not touched by him. Not quite yet. With a secret intention, he moved closer. He leaned close, causing her breath to catch. His lips initially touched her tenderly, paying slow, perceptive attention to the warmth I had left behind. She gasped, grabbing wildly for me with one hand while the other flew to her mouth. I accepted it. I leaned forward and ran my lips over her stomach after kissing her palm. Every kiss caused her skin to tingle. I touched her lips once again after moving upward along the delicate curve of her chest and the line of her collarbone. She was breathing heavily as she kissed him. Beneath us, her body moved, restless, overwhelmed, and craving more. My spouse took his time. He teased her, pushing her expectations to the limit, and made calculated adjustments, constantly altering the tempo as she began to catch up. I gave her another, deeper kiss. Her hands tightened their hold on me. As he went on, slower at first, then abruptly firmer, then soft again, never letting her settle. I could feel the anxiety rising within her. Then he got up. Slowly and silently, he leaned over her, and I saw her legs reflexively move to greet him. The steady, intentional weight of his body against hers. She simply breathed through it for a brief period, her eyelids closed and her lips parted as if she were waiting for the first drop of something she had been longing to experience. She felt a chill go through her as his hips made a single, long, anchored motion. He repeated it, first more slowly and then more quickly, when she gasped into my lips. Her thighs flexed over his as her hands gripped my arms. Her body was lured to each movement as the tension increased, and she arched, only to be surprised when it shifted once again. Never twice did he give her the same tempo. He waited just long enough to force her to chase it before testing her rhythm by alternating between painful restraint and abrupt eagerness. Her entire body followed his movements. Every muscle tensed, every breath abruptly cut short. I remained near her, murmuring to her inaudibly while kissing her lips, chest, and throat. She was caught between being held and being undone, between motion and stillness in both of us. He continued even after her claws lightly sank into my flesh and her legs tightened around him. He deliberately leaned into her beat before pulling away just enough to make her unsteady once more. Erratic and unrelenting. Beneath us, she writhed and pulled tight in all directions, never knowing where the next wave would come from, but knowing that it will. Then I sensed it. She caught her breath. Her fingertips went cold. Her entire body remained motionless before unraveling beneath us. She gave a last gasp and fell, shaky, panting, and disoriented. Both of us remained beside her, grinning, holding her, and observing her. We gently assisted her in standing up, but our gentleness was short-lived. I reclined on the couch, ready and willing. With one hand on her back and the other in her hair, my husband led her forward. Without hesitation, she dropped to her knees. He guided her forward between us while keeping a hand at her neck. He was behind her, and I could feel her recoil as he corrected her gaze and repositioned her hips. The initial contact was gentle and inquisitive. At this point, she wasn't in charge. She was starting to comprehend that we were. She was still learning how to follow my instruction, so she moved carefully. I steadied her and managed her pace by keeping my hand entangled in her hair. She made one attempt to withdraw, just to pause, but I encouraged her to stay with me for a little while longer. Not cruelly, just long enough to allow her to give in to it. Hands finding her waist, he moved up close behind her. A gentle shock went through her with a single grounded motion. She didn't retreat. Even as his rhythm started to develop, she continued. Her body followed every time he moved, not by order, but on purpose. I sensed it via her, warm and close. Every movement, every adjustment, every irregular breath. I observed her face as I slightly cocked her head. Her eyes were big now, but they were overwhelmed rather than afraid. He was becoming more aggressive. She continued. I raised my head. Once more he was observing me, and I felt my gut knot at what I saw in his eyes. This was no longer soft. It had nothing to do with patience or seduction. It was about getting what we wanted and enjoying each other's company. She breathed softly and irregularly. I caressed the back of her neck and gave her a gentle shush. Good. I muttered. Keep going. His tempo changed from deeper to slower to abruptly still. I sensed the weight, the expectation, and then the sharp gasp. Both his and her stance changed. Rougher and more deliberate, he began again. Every time she moved, her shoulders trembled and her breathing faltered. I steadied her while allowing her to experience what we were offering. We were keeping her there as she broke down. His face was heated, intense, and completely undone as he took over, and I watched it. I was broken by that. Something inside of me unraveled when I saw him like that, in control, absorbed in the moment, and observing me while he worked her more into it. She was now shaking and holding on to me with her hands. Even as she unraveled beneath us, she continued to move, wanting to continue. Then, without being subtle or slow, I let go. As wave after wave carried me, my entire body stiffened and arched forward, holding her in place. I could see how close he was as he watched it unfold with his eyes fixed on mine. He didn't stop, though. Then she broke. She fell forward, exhausted and undone by everything we gave her, and I could feel it. And it was what ultimately made him feel better. He stopped, held his breath, fixed his gaze on mine, and surrendered to the surge. She fell forward, trembling. Breathing heavily, he took a step back while keeping his hands on her. Our eyes met, wild, exhausted, and blazing. She was finished. We weren't. Respond to this before you depart. Have you ever wished you had a companion who would share every experience with you? No hesitation, no jealousy, just the two of you in perfect harmony. What would you both do if you shared that kind of connection? Tell me in the comments. I'm going to read. Remember to hit the bell, like, and subscribe if you like this story so you don't miss the next one. I appreciate you being here.